Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, and let's go.
Trust is a luxury that often blinds a man to the coldest predators in his own home. He thought he was building a legacy, but he was actually funding his own replacement. Watch closely as we break down this case of total systemic betrayal so you can recognize the warning signs before your world turns into a business transaction. For educational purposes only. Does he really think this is gonna hurt me? Her voice was like ice, man. Pure ice. Does not he get it? I did it for the money. It was never about him. I just stood there, paralyzed. Those words hit me harder than a freight train. For the money? The woman I shared my life with? The one I built a future with for years? She was not just lying or chasing some cheap thrill. It was a business move. Cold, hard profit. But look, before we get into the weeds of this mess, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. You do not want to miss how this one ends. Anyway, I was stuck in a sea of brake lights on the Garden State Parkway. Just a wall of cars in that Jersey humidity. Nobody moving. Nothing but the hum of engines and some jerk 3 cars back leaning on his horn. Right then, my phone buzzed on the passenger seat of my Ford. Just a quick vibrate, the kind you don't think twice about. I reached over, keeping one eye on the bumper in front of me, and grabbed it. The screen lit up. Chloe. No bad vibes, no gut feeling, just a text from the wife. Probably asking if I picked up the milk at Whole Foods. I swiped the screen, and I swear, my heart just stopped. I was looking at a thumbnail of a photo, a flash of skin, the curve of a shoulder, and just a hint of black lace. I held my breath. My grip tightened on the phone until my knuckles turned white. But before I could even tap the image to see it full screen, it vanished. It was replaced by those gray dancing dots, the ones that mean someone is typing fast. A few seconds felt like an hour. Then, a new message popped up. Sorry, that was not for you. My hand slowly dropped back to the steering wheel. Something inside me just snapped. Not for me. I read it again, like the words might change if I stared hard enough. A cold wave started crawling up my spine, heavy and freezing. What the hell was she talking about? My thumbs moved on their own, trying to keep it casual, like I was not falling apart. What was that? The dots came back. They stayed there longer this time, like she was weighing her options, trying to figure out which lie to feed me. Finally, another buzz. Nothing, just personal. Forget about it. Forget about it. I stared at that screen, the air in the truck getting thick and hard to breathe. How do you just forget a shot of your wife in black lace that was not meant for your eyes? A loud honk from behind snapped me out of it. The light was green. I tossed the phone back on the seat and slammed the gas. My pulse was drumming in my ears, and my chest felt like it was in a vice. But 2 words were burned into my brain. Not for you. Then who the hell was it for? By the time I pulled into our driveway in the suburbs, the sun was dipping low, casting those long, jagged shadows across the lawn. I grabbed my briefcase and walked through the front door. Chloe was in the kitchen. She had her hair up in one of those messy buns, humming some tune like she did not have a care in the world. She did not even look up when I walked in. "Hey," she said, her voice light, maybe a little too light. "Dinner's in the oven." "How was your day?" I asked, dropping my gear on the table. Usual stuff. Meetings, work, you know how it is. I watched her move, watched the way she avoided my eyes. 1,000 questions were screaming in my head, but I choked them down. I grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, leaned against the counter, and tried one more time. Anything interesting happen? She just shrugged, stirring something on the stove. Not really. Just the same old thing. That knot in my gut just got tighter. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to just shake it off and pretend everything was fine. But the image of that photo and those 4 words would not let go. Not for you. It was on a loop in my head. I watched her, how smooth she moved, that practiced smile she gave me when she finally turned around. You okay? She asked, her eyebrows knitting together. I forced a smile. I tried so hard to look like a guy who just had a long day at the office. Yeah, I lied. Just beat. That night, after Chloe drifted off next to me, I was wide awake, staring at the ceiling fan. My mind was a mess. The photo, the tone of her text, the way she just brushed it off like it was nothing. It was all wrong. I did not have the full picture yet, but I knew the floor had shifted. Chloe was out cold. Her breathing was steady, calm, while the glow of the street lamp outside painted weird shadows on the walls. I stayed dead still, feeling the weight of the whole thing crushing my chest. That lace, her words, that oops text. It would not stop spinning. I looked over at her phone. It was sitting on the nightstand, face down, like it was hiding something. My stomach did a flip, a mix of pure anger and that sick kind of fear. Look, I'm not the guy who snoops. I always figured if you do not have trust, you do not have anything. But tonight, the rules were out the window. I could not ignore it anymore. Carefully, I slid out from under the covers. The mattress creaked a little, but she did not budge. She just shifted a bit, threw an arm over the duvet, and went back to sleep. I held my breath, grabbed the phone, and crept out to the living room on my tiptoes. The little nightlight in the hallway threw long shadows across the rug. I sat on the sofa, holding the phone like it was a live grenade. My palms were sweating, and my heart was thumping against my ribs. I felt like a dog for doing it, but I had to know. My thumb hovered over the screen. I knew the code. She was never careful enough to hide it. A little click, and I was in. I started scrolling through the apps, looking for anything that felt off. Email, Facebook, Instagram. It all looked too clean, too perfect, like she'd scrubbed it down with bleach. But then I hit the messages. Most of it was boring stuff. Coworkers, her sister, group chats about brunch. Then I saw a name that did not have a last name. Phil. I opened the chat. At first, it looked like nothing. Short texts about times and places. But the vibe was wrong. Then I hit the last message from him. Cannot wait for the shoot next week. Let's make it even hotter this time. I felt my fingers go numb. I scrolled up fast, digging through the older stuff. Compliments about her energy, her talent, dates for shoots, links to scripts. It did not make sense. Not until I hit a message with a link. I tapped it. A second later, a website loaded up. It looked professional at first glance, but as I scrolled down, my stomach dropped through the floor. It was an adult site. My hand was shaking so bad I almost dropped the thing. I tapped the menu. A list of top performers popped up. And there she was, with that same confident smile, that same practiced look she'd given me in the kitchen just a few hours ago. It was Chloe. That look she gave me tonight, it felt like it belonged to a stranger now. I felt totally numb, like I was watching someone else's life on a screen. My thumb tapped her profile. The username was different, some stage name, but I'd know her anywhere. That was my wife. The screen filled up with videos, dozens of them. I stared at the thumbnails, my brain just flat out refusing to believe it. Every shot was explicit. Every image showed her in ways I could never unsee, no matter how hard I tried. I did not even know what I was doing anymore, but I picked one. I hit play. The video started, and I wished I was dead. There was my wife, in a room I'd never seen before, and she was surrounded by people I did not know, men. Most of them were Black and Latino guys. They were dominating the scene. She was laughing, and she moved with a kind of wildness I did not recognize. And she was saying things I could not imagine coming out of the mouth of the woman I'd lived with for years. I felt sick to my soul. I killed the video and threw the phone onto the coffee table. I tried to stand up, but my knees were like jelly. I had to lean against the wall just to keep the room from spinning. The world I knew was gone, smashed into a million pieces. I stood there, gasping for air, trying to process what I'd just seen. Every time she'd been working late, every weird vibe I'd ignored because I wanted to be a good husband, the new perfume, the late nights, the way she'd been acting distant, it was all right there. Chloe was living a double life. It was so overwhelming I almost hit the floor. This was not just a cheat. This was a total humiliation. She made a joke out of everything we built, our marriage, our home, our love. The phone on the table buzzed. I looked down. A new message. You were amazing last time. Cannot wait for the next shoot. Phil. I felt this heat rise up in my chest, a wave of pure rage that wanted to tear the house down. I did not know what to do. I did not know where to go. But I knew one thing for damn sure. I was not going to play the fool anymore. The guy I was 10 minutes ago, the trusting husband who thought he had a good marriage, he was dead. All that was left was this empty shell of a man trying to keep his feet under him. I sat back down on the sofa and buried my face in my hands. And Chloe? She was just 30 feet away, sleeping like a baby in our bed. Totally peaceful. She had no idea her little tower of lies was already starting to crumble. She thought she could hide an entire secret identity from me forever. But I was not going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. Not a chance. This time, I was the one holding the cards. I picked up her phone again. This time, I was methodical. I spent the next hour saving every single shred of evidence, every text from Phil, every link to that site, every preview of her videos. I forwarded the whole lot to my own device. My throat felt like I'd swallowed acid, but I did not stop until I had every scrap. Once I was sure I had enough, I walked over to the cabinet in the hall and pulled out a small box. I'd bought this stuff 3 years ago for home security, but never actually used it. It was a set of tiny hidden cameras and mics. I moved through the house like a ghost. I rigged the living room, the kitchen, and yeah, even the bedroom. I tucked those mics into corners where she'd never find them, but they'd catch every whisper. It felt dirty, sure. But she was the one who burned the bridge of trust first. This was not just payback. This was about making sure I survived the fallout. By the time I was done, I could see the first gray light of morning through the windows. I sat at the kitchen table, grabbed a piece of paper, and wrote a short, cold note. Chloe, I know everything. I've got all the proof, so do not even bother lying. Do not try to call me. We're done. Good luck explaining this. I signed it, Daniel, and left it right there on the counter. Beside it, I laid out the printed screenshots of her texts and the URL to her profile. I stood there for a minute in the silence. I looked at the photos on the walls, the furniture we picked out together at Crate and Barrel, the kitchen where we used to make breakfast. It all looked like a cheap movie set now, just a big, ugly joke. I grabbed a bag I'd packed in a hurry and walked out the door without looking back. Driving to my old apartment felt like I was moving through a dream. I had not set foot in that place since we moved into the big house together. It was small and smelled a bit musty, but it was mine. No lies lived there. I'd kept the lease active just in case, and I was never so glad to have those keys in my pocket. I walked in, dropped my bag on the floor, and collapsed onto the old sofa. Bare walls, quiet rooms. It was the first time I felt like I could actually breathe. Then I pulled my phone out of my pocket. It was time for the final move. I went through my contacts and picked everyone who mattered. Her parents, her sister, her best friends from college. Everyone who thought she was this perfect, sweet woman. You guys might want to see what Chloe's really been up to. I did not add any long stories. I did not make excuses. I just hit send on the link to her profile and watched the messages fly out. I leaned my head back against the cushion, feeling this strange, cold satisfaction wash over me. She'd spent years hiding this, thinking she was untouchable. Well, the party was over. Her little house of cards was finally coming down. The free ride was over, and the consequences were pulling up to the curb. She had nobody to blame but the woman in the mirror. I was lying there on that lumpy old sofa in my rental, watching the city of Newark slowly wake up outside. But my head was still spinning like a damn centrifuge. I kept thinking, how long has she been playing me? Was she laughing behind my back every time I came home exhausted? While I was pouring my soul into our marriage, into our future, she was treating it all like one big joke. A total illusion. Thank God we never had kids. Seriously, that's the one silver lining in this whole mess. If we had a couple of little ones running around, they'd be dragged right into the middle of the nightmare she built with her own 2 hands. Just the thought of it gave me the shivers. For the first time in God knows how long, I let myself breathe. I just sat there and pictured it. I pictured her waking up in our big, quiet house, stretching out, having no clue that the secret world she'd kept under wraps was already dead and buried. I imagined her heading to the kitchen, brewing a pot of coffee, grabbing her phone to check her likes, and then seeing my note. First, the confusion, then the panic, then the pure, unadulterated Jersey rage. And the best part? She was going to have to swallow all of it alone. There's a certain kind of poetry in that, don't you think? I looked at my phone, wondering if I should just block her number right then and there. Or maybe I should leave it open. Give her a chance to try and talk her way out of it. The thought of her blowing up my phone with desperate texts and pathetic excuses while she realizes her comfortable little life is in ruins, it gave me a sick kind of rush. For the first time since I saw that lace on the screen, I felt like the man in charge again. When sleep finally hit me, it was rough, but that suffocating feeling of being trapped was gone. When I woke up, I went straight for my laptop. I pulled up the software for the hidden cameras I'd stashed around the house. The feed was crystal clear. The kitchen was empty. My note was still sitting right where I left it on the granite counter. The whole house was dead quiet. Chloe was still upstairs, probably dreaming about her next shoot. I waited. I drank some lukewarm coffee and paced around that tiny living room. The waiting was eating me alive. My stomach was doing somersaults, part anxiety, part twisted excitement for the show to start. A few hours later, I saw movement on the screen. Chloe walked into the frame. Her hair was a mess, and she was wearing that oversized Keurig-stained t-shirt she always slept in. She went to the coffee maker, filled the reservoir, popped in a pod, and rubbed her eyes, trying to shake off the sleep. She did not even notice the note at first. I leaned in closer to the screen, my heart hammering against my ribs. She took a sip of her coffee, and then she saw the folded piece of paper. I watched her forehead wrinkle. She set the mug down and reached for it. Her eyes moved fast over my handwriting. Her pupils went wide. Her whole face shifted. First, she looked confused, then shocked, and then it turned into something cold, hard. She picked up the screenshots I'd printed out. She flipped through them, and then opened the link I'd left her. I watched her thumbs flying over her phone screen. She was checking her messages, her accounts, her business profile. A second later, she went pale as a ghost. But then, something happened that I did not expect. She laughed. A short, raspy sound, bitter, the kind of laugh that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. She tossed the papers back onto the counter like they were junk mail and started muttering to herself. I cranked up the volume on the hidden mic, trying to catch what she was saying. Her voice came through sharp and nasty. "Does he really think this is going to break me?" she sneered. She sounded like she was talking to a ghost. "Does not he get it? I did it for the money." It was never about him. It was business. I froze. Those words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. For the money. The woman I'd spent a decade with, the one I planned to grow old with. She was not just chasing a thrill. It was a cold, calculated move. Pure profit. My stomach did a slow roll as I watched her pace around the kitchen, talking to herself like a maniac. All those pathetic stories about working late at his firm, she mocked. All that complaining about stress. Who does he think was paying half the mortgage? Me. She let out a sharp, jagged laugh. No shame. No, I'm sorry. Nothing. If he thinks he can destroy me with this, he does not know who the hell he's dealing with. I grit my teeth so hard I thought they'd crack. I expected tears. I expected her to call me begging for a second chance. But that ice-cold arrogance, that total lack of respect for everything we built, it made my skin crawl. I leaned back in my chair, trying to wrap my head around it. On the screen, she kept going, her voice getting louder and more pissed off with every word. Let him suffer. Let him go cry to his buddies. He was the one living in a fantasy world, not me. This is my life, my calls. I do not owe him a damn thing. For a split second, I wondered, was I really that blind? Was I the idiot she thought I was all those years? But then I remembered the link I'd sent out. I did not give a damn what she thought of me anymore. Her opinion was worth 0. But what mattered was the fallout. Her parents, her sister, her perfect friends. The people she'd spent years lying to while playing the role of the devoted Jersey wife. She could act like she did not care all she wanted, but she was not going to be able to ignore the look on her mother's face when she saw those videos. And that was just the opening act. I watched her slam the bedroom door so hard the camera shook. I sat back and closed the laptop. The room went quiet, but there was a storm raging in my head. Her reaction was worse than anything I'd imagined. It was not just nerve. It was a total lack of a soul. And that told me my next move was exactly the right one. I picked up my phone and checked the sent folder. No replies yet, but it was only a matter of time. She'd spent years building that mask, making everyone believe she was the loyal, hard-working partner. But those cracks were turning into canyons now. Pretty soon, the whole world was going to see the truth, and I was going to have a front row seat. I closed the laptop, grabbed my phone, and headed for the door. Look, the events of the morning were spinning in my head like a damn tilt-a-whirl, but I knew I had to move fast. Chloe's cold shoulder and that smug look on the camera told me everything I needed to know. She was not going down without a fight. If she'd been funneling cash into secret accounts tied to that double life of hers, I had to cut her off. Now. Before she used my own hard-earned money to bury me. I pulled out my phone and dialed Jack. He's not just some lawyer. The guy's a shark. He's seen the grimiest parts of Jersey and does not blink when things get ugly. It was early, but he picked up on the second ring. "Daniel, what's going on?" His voice was sharp, all business. "I need to freeze everything Chloe can touch," I said. My voice was shaking a bit with a mix of rage and nerves. Every joint account, every credit card, all of it, right now. There was a beat of silence on the other end. "Look, you know I can't just flip a switch for no reason. What happened?" I swallowed hard. My throat felt like I'd been eating sand. "I'm sending you the proof. She's been lying for years, living a double life, filming adult movies, hiding money, the works. I've got screenshots, bank statements, the whole 9 yards. Check your inbox in 2 minutes." I heard a low whistle through the receiver. "Damn. All right, send it. I'll get on it. But Daniel," his voice dropped an octave, "brace yourself. If she's been this deep for this long, she's gonna claw back. This is gonna get real messy." I grit my teeth. "It's already there, Jack. Just do it." When I hung up, this weird wave of relief washed over me. It was just one small win, but it was a win. If Chloe thought she could keep using me as her personal ATM while she lived that other life, she was in for a hell of a wake-up call. I barely had time to sit back down on the sofa when the doorbell rang. It was not a friendly ring. It was loud and demanding. It cut through the quiet of that little apartment and made me jump. My stomach did a slow flip. I already knew who was on the other side of that wood. I had sent her the address of my old rental in the note. I wanted this confrontation. I wanted to see her face when it all burned down. I walked over and opened the door just a crack. Chloe was standing there, arms crossed over her chest, her face glowing red with heat. All that cool and collected act from the kitchen was gone. Now, she was pure fury. And maybe a little bit of panic. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she hissed, pushing her way past me and into the living room. I closed the door slow, taking my time, then turned to face her. She was pacing that tiny space like a caged tiger, her hands flying everywhere. I just stood there. "Why?" she yelled, her voice cracking. "Why would you send those videos to my family? To everyone?" I crossed my arms, looking at her like she was a stranger. "Because they deserve to know who you really are. Just like I did." She whipped around, her eyes full of nothing but hate. "The truth? You destroyed my life, Daniel. Do you even get what you just did?" I let out a short, tired laugh. "I destroyed your life? You spent years lying to my face, living a secret life, doing God knows what for a paycheck, and now you're blaming me?" Chloe rolled her eyes and threw her hands up. "Oh, save the Sunday school sermon, Daniel. Give me a break." She stepped closer, her voice dropping but getting nastier. "You think I wanted to do that? I did not have a choice. Do you have any idea how hard it was to keep our heads above water while you were busy playing the stressed-out martyr at the office? I did it for us, for our future. I just stared at her. I could not believe what I was hearing. For us? The word tasted like poison. Do not you dare try to flip this, Chloe. You did not do it for us. You did it for yourself, for the cash, for the rush. Whatever sick reason you're using to sleep at night, it was not for this marriage. Her eyes narrowed, and for a second, I thought she might actually cry. But then her face hardened back into that mask of stone. You're pathetic, Daniel. Always the victim. You could not handle the real world, so I stepped up. I fixed what you could not, and now you're punishing me for it? Fixed it? My voice got louder, the anger finally bubbling over. You call lying to me fixing it? Creeping around behind my back? Turning our vows into a joke? That's not fixing anything, Chloe. That's just being a coward. She moved in until she was inches from my face. You really think you're so noble? She spat. Like you've never made a mistake. Wake up, Daniel. You're boring. You're predictable. You did not even notice what was happening right under your nose for years. That one stung, but I did not let her see it. I stood up straight and looked her right in the eyes. You're right. I did not see it. I paused, letting the silence hang there for a second. I did not see that the woman I loved turned into a total stranger. But I see it now, and I'm going to make sure everyone else sees it too. Chloe's eyes went wide. For the first time since she'd stormed in, I saw a flicker of real fear. You can't not do that. Her voice wobbled, but she caught it quick. You think you're just going to walk away after trashing my life? You think you're going to get away with this? I just kept my arms crossed, holding my ground. Trashing it? No, Chloe. You did that yourself. I'm just making sure the truth is not a secret anymore. She stood there for a heartbeat, looking like she wanted to scream. Then she turned on her heel and bolted. She slammed that door so hard, the walls of the apartment actually shook. I stood there in the quiet, breathing hard, feeling the adrenaline slowly start to fade. Her words were still rattling around in my brain like shards of glass, but I pushed them out. She was just trying to move the guilt, trying to make herself the victim. It was not going to work. I sat down on the edge of the sofa and stared at the wall. The fight was not over, not by a long shot. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was the one holding the wheel. Let her scream. Let her stay mad. The truth was out there now, and there was no taking it back. Outside, the sun was setting over Jersey, painting the room in those soft orange hues. I just sat there, squeezing my phone in my hand. Her nasty words were still echoing in my mind, but I kept telling myself, this is only the start. My heart was still thumping, but my voice stayed dead level when I saw the name pop up on the screen. Jack. I answered it fast. Jack, give me the news. He did not waste time with small talk. Daniel, I froze the accounts. Every last one. He told me she could not touch a dime. Not the joint checking, not the shared credit cards. The block was active immediately. He said her personal stuff was trickier, but they were already filing to look into her finances to see where the money was coming from. I let out a breath I did not even know I was holding. Good. That's what I need. I'm not letting her spend 1 cent of my hard work on that other life of hers. The line went quiet for a second. Then Jack's voice got a little more serious. Listen, Daniel, I looked over those links and screenshots you sent. This is not just a standard cheating case. We're talking potential financial fraud, depending on how she was moving that cash. It's big. I nodded, even though he could not see me. That's what's eating at me. She's been living this lie for years. I do not even know how deep the rabbit hole goes. Have you thought about filing for divorce yet? Jack asked. If that's where this is going, we should not wait. We need to lock down your assets and build the wall before she tries to hit back. The word divorce hit me like a punch to the gut. It was the only way out. I knew that. But hearing it out loud made it real. And for a second, I thought about the early days. The laughs, the plans, the dreams we had. And now it was all just ash. I want to file, I said, and my voice did not shake. Do whatever you have to do. But she does not get a penny more than she deserves. Understood, Jack said. I'll start the paperwork today. With the proof we have, we're filing for adultery. And that gives you the upper hand on the assets and might keep you from paying her a dime in support. Good, I snapped. I'm not being her ATM ever again. Jack paused and then added a warning. Be ready, Daniel. She's gonna fight. A woman who lies that well for that long does not just walk away. I'm ready, I said. Let her try. When I hung up, I felt this weird mix of relief and something else. The accounts were dead. The divorce was live. I was finally taking my life back from her. But it also meant I was officially killing a huge part of my history. The woman I trusted, the life we built, it was all a big, fat lie. I sat there in the dark. The silence in the apartment was heavy, but I could finally breathe. For the first time in forever, I felt like I was standing on solid ground, even if it was a little shaky. I'd taken the first step. Now I just had to wait for her world to finish burning. Anyway, 6 months went by since I signed those final papers. I was sitting in my new place, looking out at the city lights. The divorce was done. My money was safe. Chloe's world had completely fallen apart, just like I figured it would. The house was sold, and I moved into a place where nothing reminded me of her. I cut her off completely. I blocked her number. I ignored the few desperate emails she sent right after the split. 6 months of pure silence. Until today. It started with an email. Daniel, please, we need to talk, it said in the subject line. I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to hit delete and move on, but I could not help myself. I clicked. It was a long story. Daniel, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I have to say it. I'm sorry for everything. I've spent these months thinking about my mistakes. I know I hurt you, and I hate myself for it. I was selfish. I was blind, and I lost the only person who actually mattered. I do not expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know I regret it. If I could turn back time, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I miss you, Daniel, and I miss us. Can we please just talk? I need to see you. Chloe. I leaned back in my chair. The words meant nothing to me. They felt scripted, fake. She was only saying it now because her world was in ruins and she wanted back into the comfortable life she'd trashed. I did not even reply. I just went on with my day like I'd never seen it. But the next day, the phone rang. An unknown number. Something told me to pick it up. Daniel? Her voice. It was quiet, shaky. Thanks for answering. What do you want, Chloe? I kept my voice like a sheet of ice. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I could hear her voice trembling. I know I ruined everything, but I've changed. I've been working on myself. I realize now how much I took you for granted. I was hoping maybe we have a chance to fix it. I gripped the phone, feeling the anger flare up again. You really think 6 months and a few words wipes out the years of lies, the cheating, the humiliation? I know I hurt you, she cried out, sounding desperate. But I was lost, Daniel. I made mistakes, but I'm not that person anymore. Please, can't we just meet for a drink and talk? I just laughed, a cold, tired sound. Meet and talk? Yes. Chloe, you did not just make a mistake. You made a choice. Every single day, you chose to lie to me. You chose to live a double life that made a joke of our marriage. And now that it's all gone, you come crawling back? The line went dead silent. I could hear her breathing hard. I'm trying to make it right, she whispered. I shook my head. You had your chance, Chloe. You made your bed. Now you have to sleep in it. I'm not letting you hurt me again. Daniel, I still love you. I actually smirked at that. Love? You do not even know what that word means. I hung up before she could say another word. I put the phone down and felt this rush of emotions. Anger, pity, but mostly relief. It was typical of her to think she could just walk back in. I felt bad for how desperate she sounded, but not enough to ever trust her again. I was not the guy she could break anymore. That night, I went out on the balcony and leaned on the rail, looking at the lights of the city. These last 6 months were a long road. But I'd healed. I'd built back what she'd torn down. Her apology was too little too late, but it was a good reminder of how far I'd come. I survived the worst of it, and there was no way in hell I was letting her drag me back into that mess. For the first time in a long, long time, I was finally free. The hero's fatal flaw was not his kindness. It was his silence in the face of red flags. He prioritized comfort over the gut feeling that screamed something was wrong. My advice is simple. First, never ignore a sudden shift in digital boundaries. Transparency is the bedrock of respect. Second, when the mask falls, act with surgical precision. Secure your assets and legal standing before you reveal your hand. This man did not just get even. He took back his life by making the truth undeniable. How would you have handled that final desperate phone call? Let us know in the comments below, and subscribe for more honest, no-nonsense case studies on modern relationships.